welcome to this week's edition of the Magnet. You know that the Magnet feature professionals, people from diverse backgrounds. Today, we are beaming our searchlight on the creative industry. We have a big catch, a household name, who has traversed from modeling, acting, movie production, and a producer. Who are we talking about? Yes, you'll be glad that I brought him here. Let's give you the citation, a background report to better understand our magnet for the week. When we come back, as usual, bet is going to be an interactive session. We'll be back shortly.
Emeka Osai is a popular Nigerian film actor and a former top Nigerian model who is a native of Ondokwa from Kwale in Delta State. He is the first child of his parents and studied food technology at the University of Agriculture, Ogun State. As a youngster, his dream was to be a medical doctor, but because of his creative nature, he had to dump the idea and opted for creative industry. As an actor, producer, entrepreneur, he runs his own production called Golden Pyramid Production Company. He is the producer of 2 TV series called Comfort Zone. Some of the movies he has featured in includes Checkpoints, One Life, Women at Large, Greatest Weapon, Occultic Wedding, and Executive Mess. He has excelled in the Nigerian movie industry as he is one of the respected Nollywood actors, and he has also won an award for the Best Supporting Actor at the 4th African Movie Academy for his performance in movie Checkpoints. Though a trained food technologist, that has not deterred his acquisition of some skills in the creative industry, like television adverts, jingles, TV programs, documentary, ability to crystallize effective production relationship with colleagues, staff, clients, persuasive negotiating and communication skills to effortlessly convey complex ideas, highly motivated, self-starter who learned fast and comfortable with teaching and leading others as well as a team player. He has also produced and funded following films and television content from 1995 to date: Throne of Rose, 1995, Life and Death, 2005, Dilemma, 2005. He is a recipient of several awards by virtue of his excellent performance, which is Best Actor in a Comedy Series in Nigeria, Terracotta Awards, 2010. Emeka Osai is also a founding member of some professional organizations, such as MQuan, Electronic Media Content Owners Association of Nigeria, member, Association of Movie Producers of Nigeria, member, Actors Guild of Nigeria, member, Director Guild of Nigeria. Chief Emeka Osai is happily married and blessed with a lovely set of twins.
Welcome back. This is the Magnet, and it's a great pleasure. I'm really delighted to bring to the studios of Ames Media. We call him High Chief Emeka Osai. Thank you very much for hearkening to our call.
You're most welcome.
So, let's start from the beginning. Creative industry, how would you rate it? Where do you think we are? I mean, comparatively to where we're coming from.
Well, I think we've come a very long way to the point of being able to refer to it as an industry. Prior to now, it was merely a hobby. Anyone who is into the creative sector is seen as just having fun with a hobby. From being a hobby, it upgraded to being a vocation. From being a vocation, it became a profession. And now it is a business. We have done so well, but we still have a very long way to go.
Indeed.
Yes.
Long way to go to be able to put more food on the table.
Exactly.
But I'm curious. Your background says you read food and technology. Highly rated for now. How come you're in the creatives? You share that with us.
Well, it's actually an irony, because right from my growing up days, all through my period in secondary school, I never really loved the art.
Okay.
Probably because of the way the society looked upon, creative people. They saw them as those who were at the mercy of already well-fed people in the society. Whatever it is you do, they just give you handouts and all that. I didn't want to end up like that. And I happened to be very good in the sciences.
Okay.
So like in my secondary school, my nickname was Fikemboma.
Wow.
Physics, chemistry, biology.
And
I
we
added
that.
maths because
Okay.
then only very few of us, could do additional mathematics.
Sure.
And I was very good in all that, So I looked forward to becoming a medical doctor. But as fate will have it, when I finished my secondary school, rather than go straight into university because I had all the qualifications to do that, I was supposed to travel abroad to America in those days of the craze of going abroad. But for one reason or the other, it didn't happen. So within that 1 year, I was waiting to travel when my mates were already in the university. It didn't happen. So I had to quickly find my way to the next available institution, which was Yaba Tech. So I got into Yaba Tech, and the closest to what I dreamt of doing was food technology. Now, a lot of people didn't understand what food tech was because we had a lot of people who were admitted to that course that dropped off along the way
Oh,
because they
sure.
thought food tech was cooking.
Super science.
You know, and they didn't know that food technology was actually an engineering allied course
course,
that
it
had
is.
all the core science subjects. So I got there because of my background. I was able to do well and graduated very well too with upper credit. Now this dream of going abroad was still there. So
Brain drain.
yes, so I finished with upper credit. Ordinarily, you should go direct into university, but that 1 year in between, I was still pursuing my traveling. I didn't want to go further because I wanted to go abroad to still do medicine.
You would have ended up in Hollywood.
So when it became obvious it would not work at that time, and it was getting close to, closure for admission into university, I quickly processed mine. Luckily, I had help, and I was able to go to University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, where I eventually graduated as a food technologist fully. So, but while I was in Yaba Tech, something happened. One of these days, I was just coming back from lecture hall. I was reading some notice in front of my hostel then called Hollywood, incidentally, Hollywood Hostel. And someone just approached me from nowhere and introduced himself as Mr. Patrick Owen from Linters. Linters then, of course, was the biggest
Adverts. Agency.
so that they had a campaign for pig milk if I was interested. I said, well, yes, and asked if I had modeled before. I said, no. Would you want to model? I said, yes, why not? So he said, okay, give me some of your pictures. Perhaps in a month's time, when the board decides if you suit the role, we'll come back for you. I said, okay, no problem. As we have it, the next 2 days, instead of a month, he came back and said, the board entirely accepted me. They were excited about having me.
Fine face.
And I said, yes. And then that was how I started. So from there, I rose, and then I was introduced into fashion modeling by the great Frank Osodi, who is also a big fashion designer today. And I started fashion modeling. That was the elite department of modeling. I mean, you're not a top model if you're not there. But within a short period, I rose to the top. I became Nigeria's first choice model. So within this period, I was earning enough not to think much about medicine anymore.
Creativity.
Because even some of my mates who went on to graduate, from school as food technologists, they were not earning as much as I was already earning as a student, And I said, you know what? Perhaps I should just pursue this because I'm enjoying myself. I'm having the fun of my life and all that. So it was the same way. I was also approached for my first acting job, then at NTA, Third Eye, with Uncle Olu Jacobs. And I went there, after the first initial fears and the pep talk from him, I started doing it.
Okay.
And before you knew it, I was good enough.
Stardom was here. Okay, let's go back to your modeling thing. You actually took it off me.
Yes.
You know that people think that modeling is just about posing for a picture and then do that. Tell us a little bit about modeling. That it takes a lot of creativity.
It takes
to
a lot of
get,
creativity.
some results.
Modeling, I would say, is like silent acting. And you know how challenging it is. In those days when they trained actors, you start by depicting roles without speaking. Yes, that is how they know if you have the capacity to characterize yourself enough to convince whoever is watching without having to say anything. That's what modeling is all about. You don't speak, you go on stage, you wear clothes. First, they should fit on you, and then you make moves that will send messages to those who are watching for them to appreciate what you're wearing and all that. So it's all about acting without speaking. Even if it were TV commercials, same thing. Well, in some of them you speak, but in most cases, it's actually your acting, your movement, your entire being sending messages without having to say anything that actually makes you a very good model.
Visual impression.
Visual impression, that's it, exactly.
Okay. Now, so it was not so difficult for you to transit from modeling to acting. Is that what you're saying? Because
exactly.
The young ones are watching.
Exactly. It wasn't very difficult. You see, the only difference is that In acting, in addition to body language, you have to combine speech with body language to send that message. My first appearance, I had some challenges.
Definitely,
So
naturally.
yeah, so Uncle Lulu took me aside and gave me a pep talk, told me a few things, and it's like boosting my morale, and I was able to express myself the way I have done in modeling, and then I went smoking. I remember that episode that I started with was one of the most successful episodes of Third Eye at that time because it was shown over and over again, and that also gave me more confidence. So after then, I was invited by Okechukwu Ogunjofo to take part in Circle of Doom, which was the second film in the experimentation that we now know as Nollywood, because the first one was Living in Bondage.
Oh, yes.
Even though it was an Igbo film, and I don't speak the mainstream Igbo, I speak my dialect, you know,
Which is
which is Okwane,
Delta.
you know, and he, didn't mind. He said, "Okay, come. The few places you would have to speak English. Why? Because then models were the ones celebrated, not actors. We were the ones who were in front of the camera all the time, network news and all that. So it was the star power that made him invite me initially, and then for the fact that he had seen me on Third Eye. So I was there with Liz Benson. That also happened to be her first film, and all that. And we did very well. I guess it was appreciated. The reason why more jobs started rolling in,
So,
but yeah.
box office buster. So to say.
Yes, and those were very big films compared to what films perform now in the open market. I think films did much better in those days, with a modest production and all that.
But it's interesting. You didn't study theater arts. You didn't go for any form of training apart from the pep talk.
Yes.
And you have really, really made a mark
Yes.
in the industry.
You see, I've always said that besides institutional study of theater arts, to introduce into acting, there's also apprenticeship. I think what I did with modeling was a form of apprenticeship towards really acting. And somehow, even though apprenticeship would take a longer time than going to school to probably do 4 years or 3 years as it may be, but it gives you more in-depth introduction into the profession. So I would say I went through apprenticeship, which is deeper than just the 4-year course.
Started as a model, actor. Now you're a movie producer.
Yes.
MD of
Golden Pyramid.
Golden
Productions.
Pyramids, know. In fact, with a lot of movies and programs to your credit.
Yes. And awards too. Yes, it's the same thing I keep saying about having your focus right and having your head screwed in the right place. When I got into acting, I said, see, the pinnacle of acting is being a producer. Not just a producer that's employed to run a production, but owning a production house that could also, employ a producer to run your shows.
Okay.
So from that day, I said, I want to be a producer. So by the time I was doing my third production as an actor, the fourth one was my own production.
Okay.
Now as a producer, not as a production house. And I did it. It was successful. I made money off it. After doing that first test and I saw the result, by the third production, I had already set up my own production house.
Okay. Interesting.
And then I started, from there and I continued building on.
Okay. You studied food tech. Is that the end of that? Or you have ever studied it, practiced it? We'll be answering that question when we come back. I told you, it's an interesting conversation we're having here. What do you expect? A guru in the creative industry. Let's go for a short break. We'll be back shortly. This is still the Magnates. I'm thoroughly enjoying myself here because I'm interacting with a high member of my industry, the creative industry. You're welcome back to the program. Hi, Chief. Emeka is fine. In fact, let me start from there before you answer the last question. What earned you that name? Is it your community service or your prowess in the creative industry?
Maybe a combination of both, because I do not come from a place where chieftaincy is just handed out. Because you have enough money to put in, you must earn it. First of all, you must come from a right family. You must have been seen to sustain, the reputation of your family. And then in your endeavor, how much influence do you have with bringing people up and then what else have you contributed to the society? Once all that is gauged, then you are given the opening to acquire those titles.
Food technology. I'm sure by the time you see food placed on your table, you analyze.
Analysis. That is the mindset of an average, scientist.
Yes.
Whatever it is you see, you want to make sense of it based on your course of study. So it's not just enough for you to see anything and just see it the way it is. No, you must begin to apply your knowledge. So that's normal. And I want to say to some extent, scientists are also creatives.
Oh yes.
you know,
Innovators.
Innovators, yes. Sometimes they take the dreams of a creative person that is abstract and bring it to reality by seeing a possibility of transforming that abstract into real terms. And then it becomes a new discovery,
And we're artists now, there's a lot of diseases, a lot of issues that bother on diet and all that. What's your counsel? What's your take for a lot of people as a specialist in that area?
Well, I think, you see, a lot, would have to do with all these GMOs, genetically modified
Which most people may not
foods.
be aware of.
Most people are not aware of it, because, in a zeal to make food readily
Sufficient.
available for everyone, with the growing population, instead of people to think of new techniques to propagating
yield.
our organic foods, people are looking for the shortcuts. Science is trying to, genetically modify the DNAs of these foods for them to yield higher. And what happens at the end of the day is that it produces new things, new products that are not in sync with our bodies, and then we begin to present with all sort of illnesses. We pray we begin to imbibe the original tenets
Appreciate
of
the natural endowments that
exactly,
we have.
so that we live a better life.
A lot has been happening in the creative industry lately.
Yes.
You recall the first webinar where you had to even speak on the economy of DSO. What's your take? I mean, what does that portend for the practitioner?
Okay, so I will give you two perspectives. One is an ideal situation, and the other one, the reality that we have on ground. In an ideal situation, DSO is supposed to be very perfect. It's supposed to be a very big plus to the creative industry. But the question you ask is, what is the history of this industry before DSO? It's only in Nigeria we keep seeing people going through whatever it is to create new products. And then you look for money everywhere to create your product. You look for money to go pay for airtime, TV stations. And then you go hustle the agencies to give you adverts that probably will not be paid for in the next 1 or 2 years. And then how we have even managed to survive up till this point, is horrible. And then you now find people cutting corners in order to beat the long waits for them to be paid. I think that is very, very terrible. That is what we see now. Unlike in other, climes, when even if you are able to cover money to do productions yourself, you are readily assured
Of the platforms.
of the platforms to exhibit those things, and they're paid for. Or the TV stations, that's the broadcasters, would pay to acquire your product immediately or commission you to produce for them. Commission you to produce for them.
Yes.
You understand? But we don't have that happening here. So now you're talking about DSO. A lot of people are jostling for licenses to own channels because they have the concept that once you have a channel, you will have those people making, content that you almost have a glut in the industry coming to hustle you for space on your channel. And then they would have to be the one to bear the burden of going to look for money from agencies to pay for the airtime. So they see their stations or their channels as a tax collecting, platform. So you are sitting down there because you have a channel. You are waiting for people to bring their programs. They bring the adverts. You collect all the money. Even though you say you have a marketing department, your marketers, the only thing they do is to chase you for whatever money they expect you to get from the agencies. So the practice is very wrong. So wrong.
So what's the ideal?
Well, I'm happy with a few moves that the present registrar of APCON is taking, and I must, seize this opportunity to commend him very much, because I can say that even though he has not been here for a long time, but we have had it so good so far, because it is from the actions of the registrar that you begin to know what the future will be. First, based on the last interaction we went for, they are trying to reduce the time frame that a job that has been run on, on programs is paid for. Because sometimes you wait 1 year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years. I have a colleague who for 4 years have not been paid for the adverts he ran.
Can say that
Not because
again.
they are saying they did not see it run, but for whatever reasons, it's
Monetary.
not exactly. So that is going to be eliminated. Like they have said, agencies would have to register, just like banks register to get licenses to practice, so that if they do any unwholesome practice within the industry, they should be sanctioned. It looks like we, the content makers, are working for both the TV stations
And the agencies.
and the agencies. We are at the receiving end. They have squeezed us to the point that life is almost out of us.
But you have made good use of the online platform.
Yes. Well, that is the new world. And it's highly, like some of my colleagues would say, it is highly democratized in the sense that you do not have one individual who is there breathing down your neck, and if you deploy it effectively, you will be paid, for being able to showcase what you have, showcase, and you see a lot of people following you for what you're doing. You understand? So once you are able to prove that you have the critical mass, paying attention to what you have online, advertisers naturally will come to you to patronize you, and then you get paid directly.
Okay, let's zero into some of your creative works now.
Yes.
I mean, you recently brought out one, Haunted Heart.
Haunted Heart, yes. Still in the works though. But generating enough attention to make it look like it's already there, but all what you are seeing were things that are released while we were shooting. That's the advantage of using social media. So you create the buzz, you create the interest in the product even before it is done, with editing. Yes.
It's not been smooth sailing for you too, just like any other person who wants to achieve good results.
Yes.
There have been some travails. In fact, pardon me, it's a bit personal. I remember precisely 1999, there was a major shake-up in the industry where the first thing that brought this industry out was living in bondage. And the major character in that film was your late wife, Jennifer. It shook the entire industry. Now we've been experiencing a lot of bereavement and all that, but that's one that really, I can't recall if you've had any other travail that you want to share your coping mechanism for others to learn from it. Hope you don't mind me bringing out this.
Well, no. I mean, it's in public domain. What transpired at that time. It was very traumatic, I must tell you. I was never prepared for that. I never hoped or thought. Sometimes when misfortunes happen to other people, you only, sympathize. A lot of people say they empathize, but it's very difficult to actually prove that you have empathized. You sympathize, but when it dawns on you that you are the factor here, it's often very difficult to handle. It was a very traumatic, period. I would not say that I've experienced that again, but what could one do? Even though it was not these times of social media, but it was enough media bliss at that time, that even when you try your best possible to manage it, the media makes you always remember and remember over and over again. It was traumatic, but God, was there to help me, through. And I was much younger than now. I didn't even have the experience to handle such situations, but we thank God.
You have moved on.
I've moved on. I got by, by His grace.
Well done.
Thank
Condolences again, even though belated.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, how do you see this industry in a couple of years, 5, 10 years? I mean, do you think it would have blossomed to the extent of Hollywood, Bollywood?
Yes. See, the truth is, if not for the bog down of the socio-economic situation that we have in Nigeria, I can tell you that based on creativity, we ought to have at least surpassed Bollywood. Because at the point, I think we were the number 2 in terms of quantity of films produced in the world. At the point, we're almost competing, if not superseding Hollywood. Now, so let's say what we had left was to tidy up our technology and our style of telling, those stories. Those were in the early times. So you can imagine how much we have gone so far and how much we could have gone if not bogged down by the socio-political situation in Nigeria. So I would say that we have the potentials to beat even Hollywood if all things are equal in Nigeria. Our industry is not a 100-meter dash, it's a marathon. Most institutional funding organizations prefer round tripping. They want to give you money today and hope to get their profits tomorrow. If you're telling them no, it might take like 5 days, no, they're not interested. They are interested more in round tripping. And for that reason, most of us are not succeeding. Even those who had succeeded at initial times when it seemed like an organization like Bank of Industry would come in, have ended up hitting the rocks.
But don't you think that we should really be assisted in terms of grants instead of, saying come and take a loan facility and things like that?
Well, yes, that is what one expects. And that is what could be possible if the government realizes how much we are contributing to Nigeria.
The GDP.
Yes, to the GDP, like it was when Nigeria economy was recalibrated under Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. It was shown that we're contributing so much more than some industries that they thought were, prime, and all that. And so today, that's what actually opened up the interest in our industry.
What's your final counsel for those who are watching and want to not be like you, maybe aspire?
To be greater, yes, of
Yes,
course.
sir.
I expect them to aspire to be greater. What I would say is that, like I said initially, it is not a 100 meters dash. It's a marathon race. So you must first of all love the industry. You must love what the industry stands for. You must love what the industry encompasses. And then practice with passion, having your focus. And be rest assured that you will ultimately, achieve your goals.
Thank you very much for coming to
Most
the
welcome.
studio.
It was a pleasure.
That's our show today. It's been the Magnate. Yes, you're focusing on the creative industry. Remember, you can also be on this program. Remember to also follow us on our social media handles. Until we come your way same time next week, keep watching the Magnate from the stable of Ames Media Company Limited. Bye for now.